All right, let's get right into it. Today we're tackling a really powerful and honestly pretty unsettling idea from Nassim Nicholas Taleb's book, Fooled by Randomness. The whole thing is a huge challenge to one of the beliefs we hold most dear, that when you see someone successful, you're looking at pure skill. What if that's not the whole story? Not even close.
So, to really dig into this, we're going to do something a little different. Think of this as a kind of imaginary summit, a showdown of brilliant minds. And they're all gathered to answer one central, nagging question. Why are we so desperate to see genius everywhere we look, when so often what we're really seeing is just luck, and a whole lot of it?
And check out the lineup we've put together for this imaginary panel. It's a dream team, really. Of course, you've got Taleb himself, the guy who lives and breathes risk. Then there's Daniel Kahneman, who knows all the tricks our minds play on us. We've got Benoit Mandelbrot, the mathematician who saw the wildness in the numbers. Friedrich Hayek, who understood how complex the world really is. And to keep everyone honest, Michel de Montaigne, the ultimate skeptic. With their help, we're going to tear this illusion apart, starting with the biggest piece of the puzzle.
Okay, so our journey begins with the absolute biggest mistake we make. It's like a flaw in our operating system. This is the core illusion that messes up how we see everything. We just can't stop mistaking simple random luck for pure, undeniable skill.
And this illusion is so powerful because of what's visible versus what's hidden. I mean, think about it. What do you see? You see the winner, right? Confident, successful, with a biography that makes perfect sense. It all looks like proof of genius. But what you don't see, that's the important part. You don't see the silent graveyard of all the people who tried the same thing and failed. You don't see the massive role that pure chance played. And you definitely don't see the bullet that the winner just happened to dodge.
You know, Taleb has this incredible quote that just nails it. He says, "We're fools for visible evidence." And it's so true. The graveyard is silent. The failures don't write memoirs. So the survivor gets to tell the whole story, and we listen, completely captivated. We hear this one triumphant tale, and we completely miss the crucial lesson from the 99 others who did the exact same thing and just disappeared.
So why? Why do we fall for this every single time? Well, our imaginary panel would tell you it really comes down to comfort. It's just easier for our brains. A winner is right there. A real person, a clear story, you can try to copy them. But that graveyard of failures? That's abstract, it's messy, it's a bunch of data that doesn't tell a simple story. And our brains absolutely crave a good, simple story. The survivor? Well, they tell the best one. Now, this mistake we make, it's not always just a small error in judgment. Sometimes it's absolutely catastrophic. And the danger level really depends on the kind of world we're playing in. The real trouble starts when we're in a world where these crazy, rare, outlier events can come along and just change everything in an instant. Let's imagine, for a second, what our panel would call a mild world. Think of it like a calm lake. Everything is pretty predictable, the waves are small, they stay in a manageable range. In this world, an average day actually means something. Our usual ways of thinking, our forecasts, they work okay here. It's all relatively safe and sound.
But here's the kicker. A huge part of life, and we're talking especially about things like finance or history, doesn't operate in that mild world. It operates in a wild world, and this is more like a stormy ocean. Here, one single monster wave, one extreme event, can come out of nowhere and be bigger than all the other waves combined. All those small, steady profits you made for years, gone, wiped out in a single afternoon. This is a world of pure shock and awe.
And this brings us to a really, really important idea. It's called a fat tail. Now, don't worry about the mathy term. Just think of it as an event that's so huge, so impactful, that it makes the whole idea of average completely useless. In a fat tail world, one single day can matter more than the previous 1,000. And that long stretch of calm you just experienced, that's not proof that you're safe. No way. It could just be the eerie quiet right before the hurricane hits.
Okay, so what happens when a whole society misunderstands luck and completely ignores these fat tails? Well, that's when we get to the next big problem. We start building our entire systems on a flawed foundation. We start listening to the wrong people, we give them authority they don't deserve, and we start believing stories that are completely fake.
And it creates this vicious cycle, a cycle of deception that just keeps going. It works like this. First, something random happens. Our brain, which hates randomness, immediately jumps in and creates a nice, clean story to explain why it happened. Then, we look around for an expert, and we reward the person who tells that made-up story with the most confidence, especially if they have absolutely nothing to lose if they're wrong.
And the final step, our entire system learns the wrong lesson from this fake story, which just sets us up to make the same mistake all over again. And this right here gets to the moral core of Taleb's whole argument. He has a great phrase for it: skin in the game. Think about it. If someone is giving you advice, telling you to take a risk, but they won't suffer at all if that advice turns out to be disastrously wrong, well, Taleb says that's not just bad advice. He'd call it a moral fraud. It's just cheap talk. And you know what? Our world is absolutely flooded with it.
There's actually a name for our addiction to these simple, clean stories. It's called the narrative fallacy. This is what we do after the fact. We look back at something totally messy and unpredictable, like a stock market crash, and we create this perfect, tidy little story of cause and effect that makes it seem like it was always going to happen. It feels so satisfying, right? It feels like we understand. But so often that understanding is completely counterfeit.
So, where does that leave us? I mean, if we're constantly being fooled by randomness, if we're living in a world of wild surprises, and we're being led astray by fake experts and false stories, what are we supposed to do? How do you even operate in a world like that? Well, that brings us to the final and maybe most important part: a new way to think, a new way to live.
Look, the goal here is not to become a fortune teller. It's about becoming more robust, more resilient. It's a defensive strategy. Rule number 1, and this is the big one: avoid ruin at all costs. It sounds so obvious, but you'd be shocked how many people risk everything for a tiny little gain. Instead, build in a buffer, a margin of safety. You want to value what lasts, what can survive a shock, not what just looks flashy when things are calm. And maybe most importantly, you have to change how you keep score. Stop judging yourself based on the random outcome. Judge yourself based on the quality of your decisions. That's your inner scorecard.
And you know, our old friend Montaigne, the skeptic from our panel, he just captured this inner shift so beautifully. The idea is that your soul, your sense of self, has to stand a little bit apart from what happens. Because if your identity is completely wrapped up in outcomes, then every piece of bad luck feels like a personal flaw, and every lucky break turns you into an arrogant jerk. The real wisdom is learning to separate who you are from the roll of the dice.
And really, that's what this all boils down to. The goal isn't to get a crystal ball and predict the future. It's something much more profound. It's about becoming less easily fooled. It's about forging a tougher, more honest relationship with reality. It's about becoming a little less arrogant when you win, a little less broken when you lose, and most of all, just a little bit harder to fool.